For the past 2 days, we've been focusing on Russia, where Prime Minister Narendra Modi was visiting. Tonight, let's start from the other end of the world, where Russia's enemies are meeting, the NATO countries. Their summit kicked off in Washington, D.C. today. NATO stands for the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. It's basically a military alliance from the Cold War era. The Cold War is long over, but NATO still lives on, and it's growing bigger. This summit was supposed to be a celebration marking 75 years of NATO's existence, with 2 new members, Finland and Sweden. The group started with 12 members, now it has a total of 32, so this was meant to be a birthday party of sorts. But that's not how it turned out. When the leaders met, they were confronted with challenges, differences, misaligned priorities, and the prospect of Donald Trump returning as president. So at 75, NATO has more to worry about and less to celebrate. Their biggest challenge is the war in Ukraine. Despite all military and monetary assistance, it isn't going their way. Russia is making gains. So NATO has to decide what it does next. How much support should it give Kyiv? And where should it draw the line? Unfortunately and unsurprisingly, they cannot decide. The allies are divided, and leading them is their host and US President Joe Biden. He has announced fresh military support to Kyiv.
Putin's war of aggression against Ukraine continues, and Putin wants nothing less than Ukraine's total subjugation. Today, I'm announcing a historic donation of air defense equipment for Ukraine.
Historic donation, he says. It's in response to this week's attacks. Ukraine suffered a wave of airstrikes from Russia on the eve of the NATO summit. The attacks killed at least 38 people. This was Russia's bloody message to NATO. In response, NATO is readying a new aid package. Military support worth $43 billion. That's what's on the table. But even that may not be enough. The NATO Secretary General is asking for more. That's Jens Stoltenberg, the outgoing leader of this group. He says member countries must make multi-year commitments to Ukraine. The specifics are still being discussed. Meanwhile, Ukraine has laid out its expectations. It wants more weapons, more military support, and a free hand to strike deep inside Russia.
Imagine how much we can achieve when all limitations are lifted. If American leadership makes a step forward and allows us to destroy Russian military aircrafts on their bases.
As you can see, President Zelensky is attending the summit, but Ukraine is not part of NATO, and it is not expected to get membership anytime soon. It's a contentious issue, NATO membership for Ukraine. In fact, it's one of the reasons that Russia gives for starting the war. Ukraine wanted to join NATO, and that would have brought the military alliance to Russia's border. Now, 2 years on, Kyiv is still keen to join. It has some backers like France, but not everyone is on board. For starters, Joe Biden himself is reluctant. He does not want to give any guarantees to Ukraine. Same with Germany. It doesn't want the NATO to overcommit. So what's the way out? A compromise. Tomorrow, the NATO will release a summit declaration. It is expected to be worded in such a way that all sides are happy. Reports say NATO members will promise Ukraine a quote-unquote irreversible path to membership. But it will come along with a long list of terms and conditions.
To invite a new ally, we need consensus. All allies agree that Ukraine will become a member, but it's too early to say exactly when that will happen. What I can say is that we are moving together with Ukraine closer and closer to NATO membership.
The membership invite won't come at this summit. That's out of the question. Even Kyiv knows that. Until the war is over, they won't get a NATO membership invite. So Zelensky will have to wait. And at this point, he has a bigger concern. Donald Trump.
I hope that if people of America will vote for President Trump, I hope that his policy with Ukraine will not change.
Will the US keep supporting Ukraine if Trump becomes president? Zelensky cannot be sure of it. Will the US remain committed to NATO if Trump becomes president? NATO members cannot be sure of it. So Trump's shadow is looming over this summit, and with good reasons. America is heading into a presidential election. As of today, the former president, Donald Trump, is ahead in the race. He's polling better than Joe Biden. In the past, he's walked out of multilateral commitments, and he said that America will not pay for the security of others. All of this makes American allies in NATO nervous. So they're pushing for protections. They want to Trump-proof NATO. And how will they do that? Well, the UK's new Prime Minister Keir Starmer has dropped some hints. He says the NATO needs to lock in some financial commitments for the long term.
My message is very, very clear that this NATO summit is an opportunity for allies to stand together.
He's talking about the NATO budget and the financial contributions of each member. Every NATO member must allocate 2% of their budget to the military. But some allies are not pulling their weight, like Canada. Canada's defense budget is around $20 billion. That's just 1.34% of its GDP. It's way below the 2% promise. And Canada has no plans to raise its budget yet to meet its spending target. Now, reports say NATO members plan to confront Canada on this. So there's a lot of ground to cover in this summit. 2 years back, NATO was staring at irrelevance. The war in Ukraine has given this group a new purpose. Today, it has more members than ever before. But you see, size does not guarantee success. NATO is also a divided house, with serious gaps in its military strength and uncertainties related to funding. Not all member states are pulling their weight. So while a 75th anniversary should be time for celebration, NATO would do well to make it an opportunity for introspection.
Across continents, one powerful news source.
Bringing you diverse perspectives on the issues that matter.
We go beyond the boundaries to give you that little extra about every sporting moment.
So thank you for making Firstpost 5 million strong. We're counting on your support, and you can trust us to bring you the news unfiltered and unvarnished.
Climate change is on our doorstep. It's time for a revolution to take root. And it starts with 1.4 billion Indians. It starts with one tree for humanity, one tree for Mother Earth, one tree for a future. Project One Tree, a News 18 network initiative.
On the show today, the T20 World Cup Bangladesh has moved across to the West Indies. What can you expect?